thinks.
Supporting good mental health has never been more important. For children, they're experiencing a lot of their feelings for the very first time, and that can be scary and confusing, as well as all the other difficult emotions they might be feeling. The idea of emotional literacy is just that if a child can name different emotions and reflect on them in a healthy way, then they're going to be better equipped to deal with them when they come along. Subtle and complex emotions like resentment, bitterness, envy, regret, these are complex concepts for a child to get their head around. Because of this, they often get lumped into broader categories of emotion like anger or sadness. I want to talk to you about the Linky Thinks How Do I Feel wheel. The idea for the How Do I Feel wheel came about through talking to my nephew when he was going through a difficult time at school. It seemed that every Sunday night he would start to get tummy aches and he didn't know why. The prospect of going back to school the next day was obviously causing him discomfort, but he didn't have the tools or the language to express what was going on inside. This gave me an idea for an interactive learning tool which I now use with my students every day. It arrives as a folding games board that opens up into a two-sided wheel. It can be used as a tabletop activity or a wall display, and it's split into 4 broad categories of emotion: happy, sad, angry and scared. From each of these you've got a more subtle and complex feeling, with a child-friendly definition for each. Sometimes a child isn't going to want to talk about how they're feeling. Sometimes they're not going to feel able to talk about how they're feeling. But presented with this word wheel, they can sit down, reflect on the different emotions available to them, and point with the dial to which one best represents what's going on inside their head. And then the other side of the How Do I Feel wheel has words and images to reflect on how we present ourselves externally with our emotions, and on the inner circle, how those things feel internally. You might be laughing and joking on the outside, seeming confident and cocky, but actually on the inside, your heart's beating like a drum, or you've got butterflies in your stomach and you're feeling terrible anxiety about a social situation. Self-awareness is a really important part of development. Even as adults, we don't always know exactly what emotions are going on when we behave the way we do. For a child, what often looks like bad behaviour is often a more complex emotion that they just don't have the tools to express yet. Sometimes when a child comes across as rude or disrespectful or unkind, it's because they're feeling some sort of more complicated emotion to do with grief or sadness or resentment that they're not able to express with words. Part of helping a child to cope with what they're feeling is making them feel heard. It's not necessarily about trying to fix their emotions, but just helping them to feel that their emotions are recognised. This is also really important just for developing empathy, recognising that the way people behave sometimes is because there's things going on inside them that we can't see. The wheel can be used for conflict resolution and for diffusing an argument. You can sit 2 children down and ask them to reflect on how they were feeling when they said the hurtful thing or when they behaved in that way. Equally, you can sit them down and ask them to reflect on how the other person might be feeling now that this has happened. It's also really important that as adults, parents and teachers, we're able to model a healthy approach to communicating our feelings. Sometimes grown-ups don't feel it's appropriate to be open and honest about their own feelings with a child for fear of lumbering them with that burden of emotion. But if we want a child to feel safe and secure in the ability to say sorry for the way they've behaved or to talk openly about their scary inner feelings, then we need to show them how it's done. So the How Do I Feel wheel is also a tool for adults to communicate in a healthy way about emotions to children. The mistakes we often make as adults when a child comes to us with their feelings is either to play it down and tell them don't be silly or don't cry, don't make a fuss. Another thing that we tend to do is to sometimes try and distract children from how they're feeling. We'll say, oh, it doesn't matter, oh, look over there, let's do something else, let's play a game, let's go to the park. What might seem like a trivial concern to us as grown-ups can be huge in the mind of a child. But if a child doesn't feel safe coming to a parent or a teacher for some silly little problem, how are they going to be able to talk about their feelings when it really matters? A child should never feel forced to talk about how they're feeling. Sometimes they simply won't be able to, but this is about giving them another option, so they can talk without necessarily having to talk. Sometimes when they're not able to put it into words, they can simply point at the wheel and show you what's going on with them. The experience of grief or trauma can change day to day in terms of how we feel. Sometimes a child might feel guilty for feeling the way they feel. You can create a grief diary or a chart where day to day the child is able to check in with themselves and rate the specific feeling that they're going through according to the How Do I Feel wheel. If we show children that there's no such thing as a wrong emotion, then they're going to become better at dealing with those emotions and reflecting on them before they become a problem. They'll learn to empathise more with other people with regard to their emotions and start to reflect on their behaviour and how it impacts themselves and the people around them. The Linky Thinks How Do I Feel wheel comes with a little user guide explaining all of these concepts behind emotional literacy and mental health and different ways to help children to process their feelings, regulate their mood, manage their behaviour, and to generally take a healthy approach to emotional communication. I really hope that was helpful. You can find the How Do I Feel wheel and other videos like this on linkythinks.com.